Hello, welcome to Clowning Around again with me, Em Stroud. And I love the fact that we've already started pulling silly faces, me and my fabulous guests and lovely listeners and viewers. I hope that you're well. I hope that you have found some time to laugh, think and play, because you know it does make you feel better. And this week I am so excited because this man is just, well, he's delicious, he's brilliant. As you can see, he's wearing awesome bright clothing, which just embodies so much about who this man is. So, yes, without further ado, lovely listeners, lovely viewers, this week we're clowning around again. Creativity with the lovely Jay Stansfield. Hello, Jay. How are you? You know, it's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Now, I do always like to start with the pod because my brilliant, brilliant listeners always like to know, where in the world are you?
I am up north in Colne in Lancashire, of all places.
Yeah, so Lancashire, for those people that are not in the United Kingdom, is quite far up. And how far away are you from Blackpool? Because that's the sort of point of reference that most people would know of Lancashire.
Okay, yeah, it's about 50 minutes away from the coast.
Okay, about 50 minutes away, and it's a very beautiful county, Lancashire. And you know, are you from there? Is that where you're from?
Yes, I was born in Burnley. I grew up in
Okay.
Nelson,
Okay.
and now I live in Colne.
Yeah.
It is a lovely area. It's just literally living in the hills with loads of sheep, really. You've
Yeah.
got a little town, and then no matter where you look, you can usually see a sheep, or you can
Yeah.
see a farm or a river. It's great.
It is true. It is very magnificent countryside, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's just a very beautiful thing. But we're not here to talk about the wonders of Lancashire. I mean, we could do, but that would be a different podcast, and we'd be like, "Hi, welcome to Lancashire. We're the tourist guide. Let's go." And obviously, we could do that because you and I are both creative beings, which is what we're going to talk about. Now, everybody that listens on a regular basis, and welcome new listeners and new viewers, I always start with the pod with a series of questions. They're deep, insightful questions about the area that my guest plays in. Now, luckily, he does play in the creative world, and so we're going to start the questions. I want you to picture the scene, Jay. There you are, come into a radio studio. You've got your mic, you've got your lighting, far better than I've managed to get my lighting today, and that's okay. The host, that's me, sits down and goes, "Gosh, you look great with your lighting, mine imperfectly perfect." And they go, "Hello." The smoke in the studio for some reason starts billowing. We don't know why there's smoke. We kind of cough, get rid of it, because we're like, no, we need to be able to see each other. And question number one is asked: what does creativity mean to you?
Well, let me tell you.
Go on.
Creativity to me is literally just existing, because if you look at children and you see how they exist, they are just pure creativity. They're pure creativity. And for me, creativity is that it's holding on to that spark that we have that literally just embodies us when we're little. It's holding on to that. It's having the courage to hold on to that actually as an adult.
I love that. And I think, you know, and it's so interesting because I meet so many people, and I'm sure you do as well, who as adults have gone, no, but I'm not creative. And it's like, at what point does that happen? Because as you say, as little people, there is no, I'm not creative. We're just human. So therefore we are creative. And it's a really sad indictment, I think, about where we are in the world, that so many adults go, nope, not creative. You know, and that is why you and I do what we do, because that's magic. Oh, it's so exciting. Question number two. The radio producer is in my ear, not really, going, "Come on, Em, make sure you stay on track." Okay, I will, radio producer, go away. What song is creativity?
What song? What song is creativity? So I grew up listening to a lot of music. Thanks to my dad. Thank you, Dad, in heaven.
Right.
Because his tastes were so eclectic, I was able to just get the real full spectrum of melody, really. He was a melody man. He liked melodies and harmonies. So I'd say a song that is creativity, I would say very minimally is probably Blackbird by the Beatles.
Blackbird sitting on a day of light.
Yeah, it just
Mhm.
it just feels so. It sounds simple and it's not, and I love that. I
Yes.
love simplicity when it sounds simple and it's not simple because it's a
Mm.
complex creation, you know, and I love
Mm.
that. I'd say it's that song.
I love that too. So I will make sure that that gets added to the Clowning Around playlist that everybody can access on Spotify, because that has not been said before. So we will have Blackbird by the Beatles. And yeah, and that's one of those songs that I think is so magic when you hear it just in headphones and you just stop doing everything else and you just hear its magnificence, as you say, with its simplicity, but also that's when you hear the depth. And I
Yeah.
think magic, I think creativity, it comes in many forms, of course, but I think sometimes we can overlook what apparently is simple, and actually there's so much depth to it. So thank you for sharing that song, and everyone will be like, oh yeah, that's a good one to have on the playlist. So really good.
Oh, yeah, I thought of that one. Yeah, I thought of that.
Yeah, you'll be like that. I'll put that one on. That's good. And if creativity was a country, what country would it be? And obviously, it doesn't necessarily have to be a country. We can make rules because this is my podcast.
I mean, the first thing for me that came to mind was the UK, and the reason I say that is because there's so much rich and original and alternative art come out of this
Mm,
country over the last over centuries.
mm,
It's always for such a small place. I always found that really exciting because and
mm,
it's actually such a privilege, even though it probably doesn't feel like it right now in the current climate of 2026. It's such a massive privilege living in the UK because the culture is so diverse and so rich that it all just combines together to create this really, really beautiful place to flourish creatively if you allow it in, if
mm.
you not get all bogged down by the news and politics and people generally. You can really thrive, and so I'd say it's the UK, the whole of the UK. I'm including all the countries in the
Yeah,
UK.
I love that. I love that. And you're right, I mean, it is staggering. I think bar the US, we have the biggest music industry, that has a worldwide appeal. You look at theatre, you look at, as you say, all the arts across the board. And we are this awesome melting pot of creativity and have been for a very long time. And you're right, it's actually really important when the world feels so hard to remember these things and actually remember
Yeah.
that that's as true as all of the bad shit, which is good.
Yeah.
Question number 4, you're doing brilliantly. The radio studio is loving it. The editor is thinking this is the best interview they've ever heard. It's amazing. Who makes you think of creativity? Who makes you think of creativity?
I would probably say the 1980s children's television companies who
Mm,
produced children's content in the 1980s specifically, because it had a certain amount of freedom to it.
mm,
It's almost like, and I don't mean, inappropriate things like, discrimination and things,
mm,
which did happen on TV in the 90s. I just mean things like the way that the music was written, the way
mm.
that the characters were presented, the color schemes that they used, and the way that things were animated and edited and presented. Just it's a real golden era, I think, for creativity, and so I'd say that.
I mean, I can't help, as somebody that grew up in the 80s, I can't help but now just have in my head, we're off to Button Moon, we'd
Oh,
follow Mr.
Mr. Sky.
Spoon, Button Moon. Now, for those of you that aren't based in the UK or older or younger than myself and Jay, Button Moon, we will have just sounded quite mad. But this was an example of a 90s kids show, which basically was made around a wooden spoon and some foil, and it was so enchanting, and these tiny little finger puppets from what I remember. And you're right, it was so enchanting and it was so simple that the fact that 30, 40 years on, you and I both still remember the theme tune, that within
Uh-huh.
itself is like they created something that actually still stays with us. Now, of course, I know that childhood memories are obviously sort of, there's a whole lot of evidence. Of course, you remember certain things, but
Yeah.
it was really creative, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I look at it. It's not just nostalgia. I do try to compare it to modern programming, and I've always tried to hold on to that, childlike nature that I've got. within,
Mm. Yeah.
and it just stands up as something that was just really original, and you could
Mm.
tell there were no, like, barriers. They weren't thinking,
Yeah.
"Oh, if we do this, what do you think's gonna happen?" Or, "Oh, we need to make this way that so people get loads of likes because it's like a trend that people are doing. Or we need to use this instrumentation because that popular show used that instrumentation, or we need to use this visual style because that animation was
Mm.
really successful through that visual style." It's like there was no comparison. They
Yeah.
didn't really, they just went for it. It was like pure raw creative energy went into this
Absolutely.
production, you know?
Absolutely. And I
Mm.
think it's really interesting because I think if you do look through, kids programming, and I know as we're speaking in 2026, lots of resources have been pulled from like the BBC in terms of creating work for children. And
Mhm.
actually it's so important. And that ability to explore stories, to create worlds. And there are certain highlights, there are certain, through every decade, there are really inventive, really smart, sort of quite out there kind of thinking because kids will go out there. And
Yeah,
it's only as adults you go, I don't know if I fully understand that. Like in the
yeah,
Night Garden and Teletubbies, and there's all of these different worlds because kids are like, of course,
mm,
that's how the world can be. And I think there is definitely something to be said about really making sure that we hold on to that and really making sure that we create the space for creatives to then explore. And as you say, for it just to come out in the purest way, not be a social media kind of, I need to get likes. So
yeah,
I am there with you.
yeah.
This one, question number, no one cares because no one's really caring which number
Question
it is.
number
It's just a
26.
question. Is it 26? I thought it
Yeah.
was, yeah, I think you're right. I think it was definitely 26. How do you play?
I usually play through, I will usually draw, or
Mhm,
which has actually become my career, which is weird. I will play music, which has
mhm,
actually become my career, which is weird. And that's how I play. I'll also I just like to prank my
mm.
family a bit, and be sarcastic, like sarcasm or winding people up just because it's funny is how I
Exactly.
play.
It's how you play. And how do you look after yourself?
I could probably look after myself a bit better, but
Okay.
I do my best to, I go to the gym a couple of days a week. I
Mhm,
try and walk. I've got a dog, so
mhm,
I give Gizmo snuggles. That's nice. That's good for my
mhm.
well-being. I'll take him out for walks, which is also good for health. And I don't know, my diet's not ideal, but I like fun food. So I was just like, I eat a lot of fun food. That's probably too sugary and chocolatey and fatty, but yeah. Try and have
But we're
home
all
meals as often as we can as well.
nice. And this is the thing, right? We're all works in progress. Some
Yeah.
of us, and that's the thing. And I think it's really important, especially as somebody who is a creative being, you know, it's that thing of understanding and nourishing ourselves is part of the work. But
Yeah.
sometimes, for myself, I know when I'm deep in kind of my rehearsing or if I'm deep in writing, quite often that's when I don't nourish myself as well
Yeah.
because I can get lost in it. And I think, for all of us, we're all constantly sort of thinking, oh, yeah, maybe I should do that. And it's just tiny little things that help us. What or who makes you laugh?
Who makes me laugh? My daughters make me laugh a lot.
Nice.
They're absolutely bonkers, and just some of the things that they say, they're just very funny. They push it, and I like that, and I'd never
Mm,
want to stop them from doing that. I know there are parents out there who kids push them and push them and push them, not in a negative way, but just like, I don't know, winding them up or joking around or whatever. They don't like it, but I'll push through that and let them do that because it's up to them to decide when it's enough,
mm.
um, based on a reaction or a response, whatever. So they make me laugh a lot. I do like a few stand-up comedians. See, I like comedy. I like stupid comedy.
Right.
I like silly things. I mean, This Country. Have you seen This Country? Have you
I
watched that?
have. Yeah.
That that kind of comedy is absolutely fantastic because it's just so, it's like clumsiness. I like
Yeah.
clumsiness. Clumsiness makes me laugh.
Lovely.
Yeah,
And this
cool.
is this is why I asked this question because I think quite often when, when you're talking about laughter, or if you're talking about encouraging laughter, whether it be at work or at home and things like that, quite often people, again, they restrict themselves. And it's like different things will make all of us laugh. It doesn't mean that any of them are wrong or right. And for me, as long as it's kind, and, as somebody who's a clown, right? I quite often do really silly things, but it's all aimed at me. And as long as it's kind,
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't matter what makes you laugh, but it's really good to have the awareness of what does make you laugh to make sure that you're putting that into your world consciously because, laughter makes us feel better and all that good stuff. And then finally, because the producer's going, come on, Em, you've got to get through these questions. You've been talking for at least, 17 minutes. Okay, fine. Yes, go away, producer, go away. See them on the screens. What have you been thinking about in the last couple of days? What's been in your mind?
I've been thinking about the absolute craziness of things that have been happening recently. And
Mhm.
it's either the amalgamation of my efforts over the last few years, which I mean, usually is. It's like the consequences of your choices. But I've just been thinking about how like there's been really amazing things happened for me on a personal level, creatively, just recently. Since shifting my mindset a little bit,
Right.
and it's definitely a result of that. I know that for a fact. So I'll keep on that track because that's great. But like for example, I've got a podcast. So I do a podcast with my friend Dave. It's
Mhm.
called Voice Notes Suck, and we put ourselves up for the Arias,
Right.
and we've got a nomination.
Mm.
So
Amazing.
we're just like, what is going on? 'Cause it was really funny because they were reading the nominations. I mean, I've been thinking about that because it's on Thursday, so I'm like
Yeah.
a little bit nervous because it's a red carpet and all that jazz. I've never done that, and it's like we've got it's literally just us. We do the podcast with voice notes, and I'll edit it together a little bit, just pull the voice notes off, and that's
Right.
pretty much it. We've got a little
Right.
bit of the music, and that's it. And we're up against all these like, the song of whatever by this production company for BBC Radio 4, and there's BBC Radio 5, and then it's just voice notes suck.
Made by Jay and Dave.
Exactly. So we're like, what is going on? We're obviously doing something right. We're in the like technology innovation category. So
Mate,
fingers
of
crossed for
course,
that. That's been on my mind.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's amazing. But
Mm.
again, and this is what I think is so fascinating because that's the level of, recognition, regardless of whether you win it or not, just to even get
Yeah.
nominated at that is a pretty big deal. It's you are the embodiment of somebody. It's just like stop, just do,
Yeah.
create, play, explore, and then stuff will land and you will get better or you won't get better. And
Yeah.
it's just that thing about just being in the process and creating, not just consuming. Is that fair?
That's fair. And it doesn't to me, it doesn't matter what you're creating as long as you're creating.
Mm.
Even if you're creating a mess, just create a mess. You tidy it up after. Or you might not. But, whether it's music or art or organizing something or creating a spreadsheet or whatever it is, just
Hmm.
as long as you're able to create and you don't stifle it by sitting on your hands, even though you want to, then you're gonna experience some really, really cool stuff in life. And that's the whole point in it. We're not here long enough not to experience exciting things. So
And do you think your creative self, do you think, like you said in one of the questions that, that drawing and music has now become, your way that you now as a job. Did you consciously become, this creative person or was it just, this is just who you are?
it's just who I am.
Mm,
I can't remember ever being anything other than this.
mm,
Obviously, my personality is always your personality is, solidified when you're 7, isn't it? So I feel like I was lucky with my parents that they gave me the freedom. My mum and dad, they just say all they wanted for me was for me to be happy. So they just give me the freedom to express myself however I wanted. And if I was happy doing that, then that was my path, and that's what's happened. And it's been
mm,
challenging, and I've found that I mean, it's changing a little bit now. But originally, when 'cause obviously I went down the path of I was in a band when I was 14. We did loads of good stuff. We were called Element, changed our name to Trans Element, but we did like peel sessions. We did 2 peel sessions. We ended up
Cool.
getting signed to a label in Glasgow somehow before the internet. How did you do that? I don't know. We did.
Right.
And we made music video. We used to make videos all the time, just stupid videos. We'd be recording all the time, and I've never ever stopped doing that. Like the band split up. I had some mental health issues because I didn't feel that the band was going the way that I wanted.
Right.
And so it like messed with my brain a little bit, unfortunately. Friendships brought down and stuff, but I just still never stopped making music. I
Mm.
went on to do a solo thing, and then the common denominator here is my relentless creativity, I think. So, yeah, I lost track, but it doesn't matter. That's just the way it is. I can't really remember any other point I've not been creating. It's weird. Even in the job I got a job as an RCT technician in a primary school, and
Right.
even then, I was like running clubs where we were designing games and we were making animations and all sorts.
I love that.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that so much. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because it's that thing of, I think when you are creative and it's just so inherently part of who you are. And I love the fact that it was your mum and dad that just were like, just be happy. And I think in a world right now, it's so easy to overcomplicate everything,
Yeah.
and there's guides to parenting, guides to how do you talk to teenagers, guides to how do you do that. And I'm sure for some people that, that can be super helpful. But I think if you just take that step back and go, we just want them to be happy. And
Yeah.
now, you're in that beautiful place where fast forward, your podcast has been recognized, you're doing loads of different things. And it's because you've allowed yourself to be brave. Now, if somebody was listening to this, and you and I both know that there's a lot of people, as I said earlier, that go, yeah, but I'm not creative.
Yeah.
What would you say to that adult? What would you say to them?
I would say I would say whose voice is that telling you that? Because it's
Mm,
definitely not your voice. It's
mm.
someone else's voice in your head, somewhere in your subconscious even, telling you that you're not creative, or telling you to stop singing, or telling you to stop making a noise, or telling you to stop messing around with that thing, or telling you to stop drawing in your books, or telling you to stop doing this and stop doing that. That is not your voice. It's someone else's voice.
I think there's real weight in that. And it's something that I quite often say to people that I work with. It is about that exploration, because at some point that voice, you then, then you believe that it's true.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, and I've been guilty of it myself. Like in my sort of my 30s, I definitely lost some of my creativity because I went into I should be putting all my energy into business, and then once I've made that, then I'll go back to who I am. And now, as I sit here in my 40s, in my studio where I've got my rehearsal space in front of where I'm filming this, I've got a sofa there because that's where I go and think. Behind me is my guitar, which I think you can see. No, you can't, but there's a
Yeah,
guitar there. There it is.
yeah.
This it's that thing, and for me, it just feels like I've just come back to myself. And it's
Yeah.
that, that's what I did my training in. I went to drama school. I went to uni studying theatre and performance studies, not media, because I wanted to explore what does my creativity look like, and how do I get better? And it's a craft, and creativity is a craft. And like any good craft, the more energy you put into it, you will probably become better or not. I've been playing on and off the guitar for a very long time. I'm still pretty average at it because it's just, I'm naturally a singer. But as I get, but that's the thing. And the joy comes from just doing, as opposed to sitting and, going, I must be in a band again and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, or I
And I
must
think
be a virtuoso. That
exactly.
that's the trick. That's the lie actually, because especially now it's harder, I think now because of
Mm,
the internet and social media where, and I know this is probably a tired subject, but as far as creativity goes, you kind of you'll see things on the internet, for example, and I know I do it, and then I'll become aware that I'm doing it. But you might see an animation, for example, or you might see a musician, or you might
mm,
see something, and you're seeing the finished product. You're seeing something that may actually have taken years to
mm,
create, but because it's on the internet and you've just scrolled past something, you scroll to the next thing and it's there, your brain's like, oh, it's just been made. Like, oh, that animation's just been made. Now I see that problem being for people who don't express themselves creatively because they're just not going to do it because they're like, I'll never be able to do that because it's just, how have they done that? You know, it's just there, it just exists. Like and I know process videos help, but only to a certain degree. And even process videos, someone will watch it and go, I don't have all that equipment. How can I do that? That's just, it's doing it really fast because you've only got a minute. And it's just overwhelming. So I think overwhelm is a big thing that we need to combat, you know, especially for people who want to be creative, but maybe don't feel that they are.
I think you're really right. And I think, yeah, that shutting down the noise of the internet is one of the biggest gifts that you can in order to recapture your creativity, you know, and I mean, the very fact that I'm doing this pod is literal proof of that, because for ages I was like, you know, so I had Clowny around and it did really well. And then I was like, well, I don't know, I think I need to do something else. And this is where I think I'm kind of going to. And then while I was away and I was off in Melbourne doing my comedy show, so I had loads of space because there was no, you know, I wasn't working, I wasn't on email or anything else like that because I was on the other side of the world. And I just was walking, and as I was walking around, I just was like, you know what? Actually, I want to do Clowning around again. And it was because I had space, and also I was consciously leaving my phone in my apartment.
Yeah.
And I know that that's revelatory to people, but you don't always have to have your phone with you.
No.
Because actually you can then pay attention to the world and yourself, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's a good
it's
choice. I'm glad that that's happened for you.
thank you. Thank you. Me too. I'm curious about your drawing side, because this is a bit where I definitely still have a block. I'll put my hand up. It's like, I can go and do my comedy show. I'm off at Edinburgh, do podcasts, writing a book, all that stuff. But I hear drawing and I go, I can't draw. Literally still have that. And I know exactly when that voice appeared in my head.
Wow.
When you're drawing and you're really in that beautiful place, because obviously you're drawing comics, you're drawing, you know, you create storybooks, all this kind of awesome stuff. For somebody like me, what would you say in terms of, right, this is how you can start drawing again, Em?
Start drawing.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I thought you might say.
There is no complicated answer to that. You put your pen on,
Yeah.
or your pencil, or your crayon, or your felt tip, or your Sharpie on some paper, and you just start drawing anything. Don't even think about it. That's a little insider tip. Don't. So I cannot visualize things. I have aphantasia, right, which is
Okay.
ridiculous because I create comics and drawings, but I do, and the way I combat that is through just drawing. That's probably why my characters are like a bit odd, like that look, right? For example, this was not in my
Cool.
head. I just started drawing them, and I don't know. You have to practice a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's just you might really love horses. You might want to draw horses, right? Which are the most complicated creatures to draw, actually. And you just even if you draw a horse that looks like a hippo, which is probably what I would draw anyway, because I'm terrible at drawing horses, I'd just draw it anyway. And you just draw
Mm.
an arrow and you put, "This is a horse," and nobody cares.
You're so right. You're so right. And it's that thing, isn't it? And I think you've just, you know, I think you just go nailed it for me, because it's that thing of everybody thinks that somebody's going to care. Nobody does, right? And actually you can create stuff, and if it brings you that moment of joy, that moment of pleasure, that is already enough.
Mhm.
And I think so many people pull themselves back because they're seeking some sort of, I don't know, some form of perfection,
Yeah.
right? Some sort of like, and like you say, you know, oh, but this is how this person sounds when she's singing. It's like, but she's probably been singing for like 15 years, or
Yeah.
that video has just taken her 20 takes, or whatever it might be. And you're right. It's in the long run, creativity, that beautiful feeling, we all can access it, but you just have to start. So you have inspired me. I shall later on today pick up a pen and I shall just start to draw. That is my
The thing is
promise.
the thing is as well, when you're a creative and an artist, is you it's very common to want to share what you've done. And I think that's a barrier as well because, you know, you do a drawing, it's just for you and no one else ever sees it again. I know that me personally, as a creative and artist, sometimes, most oftentimes, that's not enough for me. I want to share it. And and it's that part of it that I think people really struggle with and struggle to get past. Like my daughter, she's a really, really beautiful singer. Her voice is fantastic. She practices all the time, but she doesn't want people to hear her. She just does it for
Right.
herself. And I found that concept really challenging because I just want to share everything all the time. Even if I do a little drawing, I'll be like, "I'll share it. Oh, what do you think?" Even if no one ever sees it anyway, not one person sees it on social media, or I show someone my book when I'm on the school one, or whatever it is. It's like those two things. It's the first barrier is just doing it and
Mm.
not judging yourself. And then the second challenge is sharing it, because if you can do that, then that pushes you a little bit further in your confidence to create. That's what I do in my workshops. It's like it's very exposed. All the children, the drawings are exposed to everyone. So it's a big deal for some of those kids. They don't want anyone to see the drawing. So that's why we do that collaborative drawing. So they'll do something and then they pass it to the next person, and then there's a reaction. They like
Mm.
laugh, yeah?
Mm.
And I'll say, "Listen, here's something really important, right? Now you have to remember, if someone's laughing, that's a good thing, because laughter is a really good thing. Even if they're laughing at it, they're not laughing at you, they're laughing at what they're seeing. And that, like,
Mm.
if they're laughing, do more of that, you know?"
I love that. And I think what you've really sort of reminded me is, there is a deep vulnerability about sharing your creative self, because it's true and it's who you are. But
Yeah.
you're right, it's not all of who you are. So when somebody does laugh at something, that's a beautiful thing, because you've created it and then you've had that reaction from somebody
Yeah.
else. So again, and that whole idea about sharing and building on each other's ideas as kids and then also as adults, I think is one of the kindest way that we can then also sort of support each other to be creative. I love it. Jay, I could talk to you about creativity and go off on many tangents with you for the next 4 days, but I am aware that you have some other things to be doing. And obviously my good listeners also have other places to go. Jay, how do people find out about you and your world? Where can they gently stalk you on the internet in a nice, kind way?
So I'm on all the social media
Hmm.
at Jay Stansfield, Jay Stansfield, all one word. And there's also the Squibbles, which is my children's brand. They could just go to the squibbles.com and have a look there with the little is, and have fun there.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure that all of that is in the notes so that people can find it. Jay, I knew it was going to be a joy having you on Clowning Around again, and it has been. Thank you for sharing your brilliance, your colourfulness, and your creativity with me and all my fabulous listeners. Thank you ever so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
The wonderful Jay. And yeah, I was just talking to him about, how creativity really does show up for him afterwards. And he just said, it's really nice because he doesn't very often get a chance to talk about it, because it's just what he does. And I think that's one of the things for me. I think for all of us, we underestimate what we just do because it's what we just do. And actually, it's only when you kind of take a step back and you go, there's this and there's that and there's this. And I really, really hope that listening to this or watching this, if you do not view yourself as a creative, I really hope that this inspires you to pick up the pen, to grab hold of the microphone and to sing or to draw or, yeah, just create and just let yourself do it without any judgment. Just as we were saying goodbye, Jay sort of said, and I want you to see your drawing, Em. And I was like, okay, so I've made that commitment to myself, but also to him, that at some point in the next few days, I am going to do some drawing, which, as I say, still makes me go, I'm not very good at drawing. I don't really know how to draw. And it's like, gosh, Em, that has been so inbuilt in me, and I do clowning, do comedy, I create shows, I write books, I do this, right? I am a creative soul. I sing. I sort of dance. Actually, I dance a lot more now because I've kind of don't care now that I'm not very good at dancing, because it's just like, it just makes me feel better. But yeah, even still now, that drawing thing makes me go, oh my God, I said I'm going to share it and I'm not very good. And he's like, he does like professional books of like comics and all of these other things. And it's like, wow, voice. So I get it. If you're sitting there going, oh, I'm not sure, I don't know if I'm that. It's like, let's do this together. So let's make this commitment. By the time you jump on and listen to next week's episode, I want you to go, have you done your drawing, song, art piece, pottery, whatever it might be, building your Lego thing, right? And I promise I will show at the start of the next episode a drawing that I did so that you can see that I have done it. So I promise I will do that. So there you go. There's another episode of Clowning Around again. I hope that it has made you feel a little bit better. And lovely listeners and lovely viewers, do make sure that you laugh. Do make sure you think about everything and yourself with kindness, and do make sure this week you play, because you know it does make you feel better. I've been Em Stroud. Do like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff, and I'll catch up with you next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take good care. Bye for now.